Good morning, everyone. This is Jonathan Nicholson with ISP Supplies, and we are with Wallace Ron of Positron Access. Time efficiency is critical in these days of such high demand, and self-install is becoming a common practice amongst ISPs. When installing internet for entire MDUs, it could be time-consuming having to install each unit's internet one by one. The Positron Access GAM is able to accommodate zero-touch configuration and self-install with ease. We'll be covering that in detail today, as well as an overview of their new Virtuoso management platform and all that it can do from installation, configuration, and monitoring of multiple MDUs all the way down to the end user device. Before we get started, we would like to give a special thank you to Sandra Cohen for putting together the slides in today's presentation. So let's get started. Wallace, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jonathan. I really appreciate it. And folks, thank you so much for attending this webinar virtually. We realize it's a recorded session, so we appreciate your time listening and viewing the slides. The final slide of this presentation will have contact information. We would welcome hearing from you if you have any questions or would like to talk further about your applications. We'll be very happy to work with you and be of service. So with that, I will start our slide presentation. Sorry about that. There we go. So slide one, just wanted to start off the presentation with a notification that we are co-sponsoring a promotion for our GAM product series. 15% discount on any GAM bundle. And let's talk real briefly about what is a GAM. Some of you may be familiar with G.HN technology. The GAM is the G.HN Gigabit Access MUX. That's what it stands for. So what does this do? The GAM leverages G.HN technology to deliver gig plus speeds over media that include coax and twisted pair. So that differentiates this product from other products you may be familiar with, like DSL and GFast. And in comparison to GFast, G.HN is far superior in 4 key areas. One is distance. We can deliver gigabit plus speeds over further distances than GFast. 2 is the media. I mentioned coax and twisted pair. So that is something that our product accommodates very, very well. The third is obviously speeds, gigabit plus out further distances. And finally, price. We offer superior pricing on a per MUX and per port basis compared to GFast solutions. So with that, let's talk a little bit about what Jonathan mentioned earlier, and that is what you're facing right now in the midst of the virus situation and a lot of folks working from home, stay at home, staycations right now in the summertime, all sorts of things that are putting a huge demand on your networks as an ISP. And we wanted to address that with what Jonathan mentioned, which is a zero-touch capability. Now, you folks as ISPs, whether you're WISPs or a combination of WISP and fiber delivery, you have that part knocked out, let's say. You can get that to the edge of the building, so you can provide uplink access to the building. But what happens when it comes time to getting inside the building? Well, number one, Jonathan also mentioned, with our MUX, we enable you to attach to your uplink and then deliver gigabit services to each unit in that apartment or condo or MDU style application. The trick now that you may be facing is, how do you get into that building, or can you get into that building? So this is where we wanted to introduce the zero-touch configurations to give you some idea of how we're doing that. Go to the next slide. There we are. Okay, so The GAM inherently supports intuitive provisioning to help create and manage subscriber profiles. What does that mean? Well, what we want to do is help simplify the installation process and make it to where you don't even necessarily have to go inside the subscriber's apartment or domicile, what have you. It also extends the assignment of the endpoint, which is the G.HN to Ethernet converter device. That's the little CPE device that will go inside the customer's home. And the GAM controls security of the endpoint devices and the ability to assign and enforce subscriber profiles. So you can assign individual profiles to each subscriber. We'll get into that in a little bit more detail with subsequent slides. And we are an easy fit to any web-centric subscriber management platform you may be using. We have an industry standard JSON API that enables you to do that. Sorry, I'm having trouble here. Okay, the G.HN service, this is what it consists of. It's an association of a subscriber, which is obviously the customer in the apartment, a bandwidth plan. This is optional. You can set up your own tiers of service for various speed packages, 100 meg, 500 meg, a gig, or you can make it completely wide open. The endpoint I mentioned earlier converts the G.HN signal coming from the GAM multiplexer port to gigabit Ethernet inside the subscriber's home or apartment. And then there is a client VLAN, which uniquely identifies your subscriber traffic. Here is where we get into the self-installation of the G1001, which is the endpoint device going into the customer's home. This is the part that we feel is going to make the zero-touch capability a reality for you. Once you have the multiplexer installed in the telco room of the apartment or condo, wherever that junction point is, and you have your wireless access to the internet or fiber, then the next step is how do we get the actual customer set up without having to enter their apartment. So this is a function that's going to work for either new or existing subscribers. In the GAM interface, you just click on the Add a New Endpoint button to access controls. You start setting up parameters for that specific customer and move on to the next step, which is creating a new bandwidth profile. And again, this is what I mentioned earlier. This is where you set up your different service plans if you're offering a combination of different service plans. Or you can select one of our pre-selected profiles you see there. So the GAM, actually the GAM multiplexer itself relies on the subscriber profiles to deliver the high-speed internet services. So each subscriber is associated to a specific endpoint and VLAN. So what this means is the customer can essentially pick up their end user device, or it can be mailed to them, shipped to them, and once they install it, it will become self-aware and pick up its programming information from the GAM. And again, you just continue this flow through, clicking the Add New Subscriber button, and go on through the prompts to set up your next customer. And then when you're done, there is a summary view of all of the subscribers that you have set up, so you can confirm that each newly added subscriber has its own G1001 endpoint device assigned and the port assigned to auto. So this is where, as soon as that customer plugs that unit in, it becomes self-aware and it's ready to go, literally in just a few seconds. Just some more screenshots. This is actually in the GAM GUI user interface. this is what you would be looking at as you start setting up service for everyone. And then the subscriber self-installation. We have some slides coming up on this. I've alluded to this a few times earlier. This is actually the sequence of events, and in fact, this would be a card that would be inserted inside the G1001 1001 unit itself. So when the customer opens up their box for their endpoint device, these instructions would actually be in there to help guide them through the installation process. So starting with step one, just find a location where you intend to install your residential gateway. It may actually already be there. Says this location should be close to the telephone or coax jack where you'll connect the G1001 and a power outlet. Nice little diagrams there to help simplify the process. So you've got one port labeled as line. You connect that into the telephone or coax jack, plug in your 12-volt wall adapter and connect it to the G1001. Connect the port labeled gigabit Ethernet, and that goes into the residential gateway, and shortly the customer will be up and running. So that's the zero-touch configuration self-install. And we mentioned earlier it can be integrated with your existing subscriber management system via the JSON API. So that is the method that we're offering to simplify your installation, overcome those objections, and potentially even reduce installation costs as a result. We wanted to touch on a new management platform that we are about to release. We've gotten a lot of questions about a cloud-based operating system, and I'll take you through a few slides here on VIRTUOSO. And VIRTUOSO stands for Virtualized Optimized Services and Operation. So want to just give you a quick introduction to that. The basic version will be released later this month in July, with more robust versions coming later in the year. So as I mentioned, VIRTUOSO 1.0 will be available later in July. The plan is to offer the basic version at no cost to you. We have a planned enhanced, what we'll call Pro version, that will be available at the end of the year that'll have more robust features, and it will have a nominal license fee. VIRTUOSO auto-discovers GAM devices and provides a high level of monitoring capabilities. The future versions will provide even more capabilities. And as you see, it runs under Linux VM, distributed as Docker. There are your system requirements. Following this, there's going to be more screenshots of the interface to VIRTUOSO. This is just a screenshot from the system showing how it has discovered GAM devices. GAM devices would include the actual multiplexers and also the endpoints associated with each multiplexer. This is a front panel view of the GAM. This would be a MIMO version, MIMO being the twisted pair. Each of these individual GAM ports, this is a 12-port unit, can bond two pairs, actually run two pairs in MIMO version, so you can increase your distance and increase your speeds using two pair in each port. It will also run in what we call SISO mode, just not quite as far distances. We have graphs separately that show what these distances are and the speeds that can be attained over various distances. So this is just the panel view of the multiplexer itself. This is what would show up in the interface, so you can see what's going on with each port. The information can be exported in CSV format if you want to maintain files of your configurations. Shows the V nodes and grouping of GAM devices for monitoring. Again, these are all screenshots from the actual VIRTUOSO platform. So this gives you a global per-GAM endpoint view. As I mentioned earlier, you'll be able to see each GAM that you may have installed in your various MDU client locations, as well as each individual endpoint device in each subscriber's home. There's the detailed view of the endpoint device itself. This is the G1001. Shows its firmware version, how long it's been up, and its downstream allocated bandwidth and upstream. So in this case, it's set for probably around 500 meg down and 450 up roughly. And again, those are all selectable according to your own tiers of service packages and pricing and so forth. And here you have your per subscriber view with the description over here. This can be anything you want to enter. It can be the subscriber's name or however you would want to identify that subscriber. Detailed view of your subscribers for each specific GAM. So each individual GAM, you'll see what's going on with each of the subscribers associated with that GAM. You might have a GAM in apartment complex ABC, and you might have a 12-port version there with 12 subscribers, and you want to know what's going on with them. You might have another unit in another apartment, and you have a detailed view of those subscribers as well. Bandwidth profile view. So this gives you a quick look at each subscriber's bandwidth profile. So you can see how they're set up for downstream and upstream bandwidth. Shows this is the detailed view of the bandwidth profiles of the GAM. These are default settings. You can set these up in whatever manner you would like. These are just the default suggestions for bandwidth profiles. Alarms. Here you have the alarms showing what's going on or what the issue might be with the GAM. You see some high temperature readings there. So it gives you an idea of what's going on with each of the units in its alarm state. And then this is the controlling access, the view with the user roles here. So you have administrator, device, user, and the settings that you can customize there. So just a quick summary of Virtuoso. So it definitely facilitates the installation of your GAM devices, helps you control a number of GAMs. We have a number of service provider customers that have these deployed in multiple locations. Hence, they've asked us for a more global tool to see what's going on with each of those units in one location, one database, rather than the individual GUIs for each GAM and having to access those individually. So Virtuoso is offering you centralized monitoring of the GAM devices, subscriber profiles, and the endpoint devices, the G1001s. So that's the basic version. That's what you'll get out of the gate for free. As it evolves, you see the additional capabilities that we plan to offer it. It will be for a paid license. Basic version will be free of charge. And as it evolves, we will build more and more capabilities into the pro version of the Virtuoso package. And with that, we are about to conclude this presentation. Again, wanted to call your attention to the GAM promo that we have going on through the end of September. Pick any GAM and a set of G1001s, and our friends at ISP Supplies will provide you with a 15% bundle discount. And one thing that we did not mention in terms of giving a brief overview of the GAM is the coax version. Because of the inherent splitting capability of coax, each one of these ports, each one of these G.HN ports on the GAM can be split up to 16 ways. So your individual subscriber cost per subscriber goes down even more if you have a building application that's already wired with coax. You can provide service to up to 16 customers. And depending on your bandwidth profiles and what other services you're offering, video, telephone, etc., you may not want to do a 16-to-1 split. We have customers doing anywhere from 4 to 10-way splits. Just wanted to point that out. And with that, we have contact information, and I will turn it back over to Jonathan for any final words and any logistics in terms of Q&A and how we can assist you from here. So thank you very much. I've enjoyed this and appreciate the opportunity. Jonathan, back to you.
Excellent. Thank you so very much, Wallace, for that thorough overview. And for everyone watching this webinar, if there are any questions about Positron solutions or some of their ongoing promos or bundles, please reach out to us. You can reach out to Wallace at Positron, at sales@positronaccess.com, and you can reach out to ISP Supplies Direct at sales@ispsupplies.com. We will also be uploading this webinar to youtube.com/ISP Supplies and on Facebook at facebook.com/ISP Supplies. So have a great rest of your day, everyone, and God bless.
Yes, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.